McConnell. I need a break. Do you need a break? We need a break from the Roy Moore scandal and the Louis C.K. scandal and the mystery of why Rand Paul's neighbor tackled him and broke 6 ribs in a dispute having something to do with pumpkins. Well, you're at the right place because we are pausing to ask some questions about football and to take the long view of the state of the NFL. There's a growing sense that America's game could be at a turning point, and one of the top owners is suing Roger Goodell. Ratings are down. People like me are boycotting because of concussions, and media companies like ESPN that rode the wave of football popularity are laying off sports journalists in droves. So the timing is perfect for a new book that takes the long view of where football has been and where it is heading. And along comes a first-person history by someone with roots in the founding of the modern NFL. The book is Present at the Creation, My Life in the NFL and the Rise of America's Game. And the author is my guest. I'm joined by Upton Bell. He goes back to the days of the Bay State Patriots, and his dad was the first commissioner of the NFL. Upton, welcome back. Congratulations on the book. What a great success.
Thank you. And actually, it was a great experience doing it with Ron Borges, who is one of the best football writers and boxing writers in America. I had more self-examination than St. Augustine.
I bet. So you're not kidding about saying present at the creation. Talk to me about your dad and your mom and how they basically birthed the NFL besides birthing you.
Well, and some people question that. But the big thing is this, that my mother was one of the biggest stars in America.
Frances Upton.
Frances Upton, and was signed by a talent scout. Was in the Ziegfeld Follies, voted one of the most beautiful women in America, and at that time went all over the country and had met my father actually at a party with Charles Lindbergh, and said to him, he was talking to her about football, and she said, forget college football, the pro game is where it's at. She said, have you seen the Chicago Bears with Red Grange and all these great people? She said, forget all that stuff that you're looking at. 2 years later, after he pursued her all over the place, she finally agreed to marry him. They got secretly married. Walter Winchell broke the story, who would be the biggest shot today. And actually, they got married on the steps of St. Sophie's Church in Philadelphia. She handed him a check for $2,400. They walked down and bought the Frankfurt Yellow Jackets out of bankruptcy. They were walking back. They saw the NRA National Recovery Eagle Act. He said that's the name of the team, and that's how the Eagles were started.
That's amazing. Now, your dad, Bert Bell, besides doing that and becoming commissioner, I mean, a lot of the rules and the way that the NFL and games are played and broadcast is thanks to your father, right?
Well, if the NFL would have gone under, as a lot of leagues would have, if he hadn't invented the pro football draft. And what he basically said is, he went to the owners' meetings and he said, you know, the poor teams can't compete with the New York Giants, the Chicago Bears, the Packers, and the Washington Redskins, unless we come up with some type of formula that will let the bad teams draft first, we're going out of business. 2 years later, the draft was invented, and it was his stepchild that actually saved all of football. It's an amazing story.
Now, your work with the Patriots, the Bay State Patriots, which I love, because you came from a great success of a huge career. And then you go to the Patriots, which were just like, you know, I forget the name of the chapter, but it's like, what have I done? The Patriots were so low on the totem pole, so to speak, that I love this. They had no permanent stadium, and they used to have to change in hotel rooms around the stadiums, but couldn't sit on the beds because you had half-day rates on the rooms, and then they had to march like college players to the fields, right? This is in the 1970s, right?
Well, 1971, 2 things. One, when I came from my press conference, somebody screams out, "Don't touch the mic," and I said, what's going on here? The previous coach there, Cleve Rush, had touched the mic and was almost electrocuted to death at that. And then a writer asked me, the first writer from the Boston Herald, Jack Clary, said, why would somebody come from a great organization to this dump? And I said, oh my God, here we go. Offices ended up Fenway Park, left field. You could see the baseballs come down right through there, right into the offices. My general manager, assistant general manager that I hired, actually, his office was in the men's room. I mean, it was, people will never understand today that have seen the great Patriot teams how tough it was. So we started from there, built the franchise, got it going, and then, of course, I had the celebrated fight with Billy Sullivan.
The owner of the team.
The owner, well, the owner among 22 owners. And it was so chaotic that I had a phone at home that I never answered, but I gave them that number so they wouldn't call me as they were stabbing each other in the back. So it was pretty interesting.
The book also takes us through American history, not that the NFL isn't American history, but your trips as an East Coaster through the Old South and the lessons that you learned about America are pretty dramatic.
I would say that Peter King, the greatest football writer in America, considers that one of the great chapters he's read in years. Mm-hmm. And basically, as a young man who looked like I was 16 years old, going out through Alabama and Mississippi and Tennessee and those places, encountered right during that revolution of the 60s, the great African-American players. And you would go to the campus and you would see all of these great players and say, well, if you go to Alabama, that had the reputation, Mississippi and Tennessee, you would see all of the white players, but they weren't as good as the African-American players. Yet, amid all of that, people were being blown up, people were being shot. I mean, there were so many things, and I said many times, which is in that chapter, looking so young, the police would stop you. Mm-hmm. Talk about the problems today. And they would ask you, are you down here to register voters? I said, no, I work for the Baltimore Colts, here's my card. And a lot of them didn't believe me, and I thought I could probably end up, and did many times worry about ending up face down somewhere being shot in the head because they didn't believe me. So it was a very terrible time, and I will only give you two quick stories. One, I was on the campus of an all African-American school, and the president of the school said to me, Mr. Bell, you have two choices. You can stay overnight on the campus and not be shot, or you can leave the campus and probably be murdered. That's
I can tell which one you picked. You mentioned the Colts. Johnny Unitas was, of course, one of the great parts of your story and the great parts of the book. How does Johnny Unitas of the Colts measure up against Tom Brady today of the Patriots?
Well, they are, and you can relax, you Brady lovers. They are the two greatest quarterbacks I've ever seen. What people, and I do the ratings of it and explain why. Not only that the great coaches. Unitas played in an era where you called all your own plays, which they don't do today. I mean, Josh McDaniels thinks he's a genius because he calls this stuff into Brady. Brady could do it by himself. In Unitas' day, you were hit on every play. No concussion water like Tom advertised is going to save you, and that's why most quarterbacks didn't last. Called his own plays, invented the two-minute offense, ran the two-minute offense in the greatest game still ever played, the sudden death game in New York, 1958. Brady, equal of Unitas, smart, understands the game, every part of it. The difference is, although I think he could, he doesn't call his own plays, and he would have been hit and probably out of the game by now. So they are the two greatest I've ever seen.
After going through this process and writing this great book, how are you feeling about the NFL? Are you feeling optimistic, cautiously optimistic? As the day passed, is it going to be burned down in one way and come up as a phoenix in a different way?
Well, I was telling somebody tonight that if I owned even the Patriots, now be the time I'd sell. Sell before something happens. And it's funny, Bob Costas, the great broadcaster, who's a big NFL person, said just the other night that he thought within 15 years that the league would be in deep trouble. CTE, overexposure, too many games, and particularly young people, millennials, they do it on their cell phone. They don't sit in front of a game and watch it for 3 hours like most people do. And the other thing is 32 teams, not enough good players. In fact, there are more players out now, stars like Aaron Rodgers, than there were in the Battle of Britain. They're all gone. And,
right,
and it's
Upton
really a
Bell.
shame.
Present at the Creation is the book. The holidays are coming. Make sure you pick it up. It's a great read and a great gift for so many people in your family. Upton, congratulations. Thanks so much for coming and great to see you.
My dad served in World War II.